Yo, I have been filming and I forgot to press record. What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, then just welcome to my channel. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button because you will not be disappointed. Today's video, as you can tell by the title, y'all, I got an attitude and I'm frustrated, and I hope I can get this video edited and posted in enough time to do a live stream tonight so we can talk about it, because I need to talk to y'all. I'm sick of the men's, I'm sick of the way they act, and I could use the good old bonding session and rant session / interactive story time. And so if I get this video edited and up in time, we're gonna have it tonight. We're gonna have to have it anyway at some point, because I need to talk. Anyway, that video ain't about this, so without further ado, let me just get into this. Also, let me just say this before I jump to the next clip, and my foundation is already on. Y'all, I put on moisturizer, primer, foundation, and my transition color before I realized that I sat down, started talking without pressing film, and so I had to start the story over. But I didn't leave anything out. You know I wouldn't do you like that. You know we here or whatever. Without further ado, let me just get into the video. I'm gonna tell the story and sip on my little man-made margarita. Margaritas are man-made. What the hell am I talking about? My little Sonic slush that I spiked and made a margarita. And I'm gonna tell you up until the point where I realized I wasn't filming. So today's story is about a lady by the name of Dorothy Jane Scott. Dorothy Jane Scott, she was a 32-year-old single mother of a 4-year-old by the name of Sean. Dorothy and Sean, they lived in Stanton, California, and she was just a single mother out here trying to make ends meet. She was working 2 jobs. She worked at a psych shop in Anaheim, and then she also worked at a head shop. Her parents lived just a couple of blocks down from her job, and so she would drop 4-year-old Sean off at her parents' house. They would keep him while she worked her shifts, and then she would retrieve him every day, take him home, give him a bath, cook him a meal, read him a book, you know, just being a good old attentive parent, right? Now, one day at work, Dorothy receives this weird phone call from a guy who does not identify himself, and the phone call is kind of, you know, it's a little weird, to say the least. The mystery man on the other end of the phone, he would tell her that he had been following her, that he knew where she was that day. The unidentified man would claim to know, like, what she was wearing that day. He would run back the errands that she had done for the day and what she was wearing to prove that he, in fact, was watching her. Some phone calls, he would be very violent. He would threaten her. Other phone calls, he would just simply tell her how beautiful she was. He would admire her. And these calls were coming in literally every day. The caller had always blocked his phone number, so she was never able to get it traced. And the person on the other end of the phone would never reveal their identity. She thought that the caller's voice sounded really familiar, but she couldn't place it. She didn't know where she knew the voice from. Sometimes the caller would fawn over her and he would just call and admire her and compliment her. Other times, like I said, he was very violent. On one occasion, the man calls and tells Dorothy,
"When I get you alone, I'm gonna cut you up into bits and pieces so no one will ever find you."
And then other times he will call and be like, "Damn, babe, you looked good today." It's like, "Sir, I'm gonna need you to pick a side. Pick a side and stay there with your crazy ass." There was also an incident where he called to her job and told her to step outside because he had brought her a gift. And when she goes outside, there's a single dead rose on her windshield. It's like, sir, I don't know what kind of women you're used to dealing with, but honey, this ain't it. Now, of course, these phone calls were very alarming and they terrified Dorothy. So she made sure to let her family know, her friends know about the phone calls. And unfortunately, even though she would tell them that the voice sounded familiar and she couldn't place it, she never speculated who it could be. Maybe she didn't have a clue about who it could be. Maybe she just knew that, you know, she knew the voice. Now, on May 28th, 1980, Dorothy is in a meeting at work. And she notices her coworker, Conrad. He's looking a little funny. He also has this huge red mark on his arm, and it's beginning to swell, and it's becoming more and more red. And so she asks Conrad, you know, "Are you okay, sir? Are you about to die?" Conrad expresses that he is, in fact, feeling a little bad. And so at this point, Dorothy, along with their coworker Pam, decide that they're going to take Conrad to go get some medical attention because homeboy ain't looking so good. Now the three arrive at the hospital and they find that Conrad has actually been bitten by a black widow spider. Pam and Dorothy, they're sitting in the lobby in the waiting room waiting on him to be patched up or whatever they do when you have such a spider bite. The entire time that they're waiting on Conrad, neither of the two ladies leaves the waiting room for any reason. They don't go to the bathroom alone. They're both just sitting in the waiting room chatting. Like neither one of them are let out of the other sight at any point. Conrad is released, and then at that point, Dorothy, just being the nice old sweet lady that she is, she offers to go pick up the car and bring it to the door. That way they don't have too far of a walk to, through the parking lot. Pam and Conrad, they go over to the door to wait on her to pull up, and after a while, Dorothy doesn't pull up. So they like, you know what? Something ain't right. Let's go walk the parking lot, see if we can see her. Suddenly, they see Dorothy's white 1973 Toyota station wagon like speeding toward them, headlights on full beam, blinding them. So they're not able to see inside the car. The car pulls out of the lot and takes a sharp right turn and just speeds off. Now at this point, the two assume that Dorothy had to have received some kind of phone call, some kind of emergency regarding her son maybe or her family. Like that was the only reason that they could justify her leaving them the way that she did without any kind of explanation. They make arrangements for another ride and then they call her just to make sure everything's okay, but Dorothy does not answer. So they're calling, they're texting, and there's no answer at all from Dorothy. At this point, they get a little worried. They decide to call her parents. Her parents tell them that they had not heard from her. She had not shown up to get Sean. There was no emergency regarding Sean. There was no emergency to their knowledge, and they had not heard from her. Now, at this point, her parents are alarmed because now it's been a couple of hours since she's been missing. They had not heard from her, and the whole story just sounds weird. So they call the police, and they report her missing. Now, in the early morning hours of May 29th, the morning after she had gone missing, really just a couple of hours since she was last seen at the hospital, Dorothy's car was found on fire in an alley. There's no sign of her like anywhere. I don't know what's up with me today. I'm working backwards. I just realized or decided that I wanted eyeliner. Initially, police looked at the sex offenders that were registered in the area, and that didn't turn up anything. So then they decided to go to her close friends and co-workers, family members, to see if she had any enemies or anybody that they knew that would want to, cause her any kind of trouble. But they could not find any potential enemies like whatsoever. Now the police during the investigation, they tell the parents not to let any of the details surrounding the disappearance out into the public. Like, don't tell anybody, because they felt like that way if they brought somebody in and they knew details that nobody had been privy to, then of course that it would likely be them. Now, a week later after Dorothy's disappearance, Vera Scott, who is Dorothy's mother, she receives an anonymous phone call from an unknown number. Sound familiar? The caller asks, "Are you related to Dorothy Scott?" Vera answers yes, and the man says, "I've got her," and then he hangs up the phone. Of course, this completely freaks out Vera. Like, bitch, wait. Now, Vera instantly thinks about the man that her daughter had told her about, who had been calling and harassing her and making these weird phone calls all this time, playing on her phone. She knew that it had to be him. We know it gotta be him, girl. We know it's him. But unfortunately, she had no idea who this man could be, as her daughter had no idea who he could be. I don't know if I mentioned in the refilming of this that the calls went on for months and that she did reach out to the police, because I know y'all probably thinking, why she didn't call the police? She did reach out to the police, and they told her because he had not committed any kind of crime. He had not hurt her or vandalized her property at no point. And so he really had not committed a crime, which I would think stalking and harassing and threatening is a crime, but it ain't enough for the police to get out here and do something about it. Furthermore, you always call from a private number, so she had no way of tracking down who this person was. And now here he is calling and taunting her mother. For the next 4 years, every Wednesday, which she went missing on a Wednesday, the man will call Vera and taunt her about her daughter's disappearance. The calls were always very short and they would always be blocked, and he would always call when Vera was home alone. Now, this is 4 years later. The police still haven't gotten a break in the case, and her father is tired. Like, now they've been dealing with these phone calls for 4 years, and he's like, I'm tired of being quiet about this because you guys, y'all ain't found nothing out with me being quiet. obviously y'all need some help. So he calls a local newspaper and for them to run a story about Dorothy's disappearance in hopes that somebody knows something, somebody saw something, somebody could help somewhere. I mean, this is his child. Like, he's desperate for answers. He needs something to happen. The newspaper runs the story on Dorothy's disappearance, and that same morning that the story runs, the editor of the newspaper receives a phone call, an anonymous phone call. The phone call was from a man, and this one was kind of different than all the others because this man was sobbing, barely able to speak. And he says, I killed her. I killed Dorothy Scott. She was my love. I caught her cheating with another man. She denied having someone else. I killed her. Now the editor, he's like, you know what? This could be anybody calling. We don't know. Like, how do I know it was you? Authenticate yourself. The caller authenticates himself by telling details that were not published in the paper and that nobody else knew. He knew what she was wearing that night. He knew that she had a red scarf. And she had actually had on a different color scarf, but she had switched the scarf from the point of her leaving the meeting to going to the hospital. He knew that. He knew about Conrad's spider bite. And he claimed that he knew all of these things because Dorothy had called him while she was at the hospital in the waiting room, waiting on Conrad to be seen. But Pam, who was in the waiting room with her, said that no such phone call was ever made. Dorothy did not leave her sight. Dorothy did not make a phone call unless Dorothy made that phone call when she went to get the car. But we don't know that. That would be the only time that she was not in the presence of Pam, who said the entire time they were together, literally, no one was called. So shortly after the phone call is made to the editor of the newspaper, another phone call is made to the house of Vera and Jacob, which are Dorothy's parents. It's the caller again, and this time Jacob answers the phone, the father. He has some choice words that a father would have, and then the caller hangs up and the calls completely cease after that. Not another call is made. Sean's father, he's a suspect. He's questioned and investigated, and he actually had an airtight alibi, so it wasn't him. He was all the way in Missouri at the time, all the way across the country. All of Dorothy's co-workers were also questioned, and because she worked in the back of the stores, investigators ruled out the possibility that one of the customers could be the potential suspect because she never interacted with the customers. But hell, she could have been up front one time. Like, all it takes is for one creep to come in and see her going to the bathroom, and that's just it. I don't see why they were ruled out the customers. They started with calling her job. They left the rose on her car at her job. So I would think that it was somebody who was introduced to her at her job. One of the co-workers or one of the customers. But I ain't no police officer. Shit, maybe I should be. Now, during the 4 years that the phone calls were coming through, police did set up like a, what is it called? Where they tap the phone lines to see if they could record anything. But unfortunately, the caller never stayed on the line long enough for them to trace the phone call. And so that was a bust. 3.5 months go by from the last time that the caller called and got old Jacob on the line, and Jacob got that ass together. On August 6, 1984, a construction worker discovered skeletal remains that were buried at Santa Ana Canyon Road. Now, the remains that were first seen were that of a dog, but underneath that were the charred remains of a human body. A turquoise ring and a watch were still on the wrist and finger of the body. The bones, unfortunately, were identified as Dorothy Scott's. According to Dorothy's mother, the watch was stopped at 12:30 a.m. May 29th, which was about an hour after Dorothy had gone missing. And because of the state of the remains, an autopsy was not able to reveal the cause of death. According to police, the mysterious caller that had been tormenting Dorothy for months and her parents for years was the person that was responsible for her death, but they were still unable to identify who the man was. Like, I feel like, granted, we can all agree here that it was most likely the guy. I feel like it was just an easy cop out for them to be like, yeah, that guy, the one we couldn't figure out who he was, he's the one who did it, but we don't know who he is. Like, I don't know. Pisses me off. So after the news of Dorothy's body being found hit the news, Vera and Jacob received one last phone call. The caller asked, is Dorothy home? And that was it. Like, how up of a human being do you have to be? To this day, the man that made the phone calls, the man responsible for Dorothy Jane Scott's death, has not been found or identified. However, Friends of Dorothy's and even her own son, they believe that a man by the name of Michael Butler is responsible for her death. Apparently, this Michael guy was obsessed with Dorothy, and his sister worked at the psych shop that she worked at. And so that would explain how he would know her work schedule, how he was introduced to her, how he would know her name. But unfortunately, whack-ass law enforcement, even though they were made aware of all of this at the time of her disappearance, they say that they never had enough evidence to bring him in for questioning, to consider him a suspect or even a person of interest. I'm so sick of these police not doing their job. I really am. That pretty much wraps up this story. I'm so frustrated with the law enforcement yet again. I feel like I'm always pissed off at the law enforcement, girl. I feel like I be mad at the killer and the law enforcement the same. Let me know what your thoughts are below about this case and this story. Are you as frustrated as I am? As always, thank you so much for watching, spending time with me. I hope you guys are healthy and safe. What is safe? Safe during this whole crazy little time that we're going through, you and your loved ones. And I will see you in the next one. Peace.